Cool. Well, thank you for all introducing yourselves. I'm Paul Hickey. I'm the CEO of Data Driven Design. We're based in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're a fully remote work team. And I'm happy to be here today to talk about voice-based websites. So a little bit more about who we are. We have about 15 years experience as a team in digital marketing, web design, and software, and we've added voice to our capabilities. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, hence the name of the presentation, Voice-Based Websites. About us, we're 8 people, so we call ourselves a small, scrappy team. We're all senior level. We've been around for a while, so we're all kind of self-taught and kind of learned through hard knocks along the way. And we are actually fully remote work team, so I got really excited when I heard UK, Scotland, right, Germany. Of course, I got excited when I heard Memphis, Tennessee, and Appalachian State. But I actually happen to live in Valencia, Spain. My wife and I moved there 2 years ago with our kids. We have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so we actually just wanted them to learn Spanish. And so it was kind of funny because we're in Nashville, Tennessee for about 10 years. And I had all these face-to-face meetings with clients, so I was really scared to move abroad and have what would happen to the business. And surprisingly, it's gone way better than I ever could have imagined. I think it's forced me to think outside the box a little bit. We were remote even when we were in Nashville, so we just had to kind of maximize our client conversations when we had face-to-face time, and then just really utilize Zoom conference and the technology. But really, it's been nice. People don't really care where we are when we're working with them, as long as we're listening, doing the right things, and doing good work. And so it's really helped on kind of overhead costs, not having an office. And I think we save a lot of time not having to drive from point A to point B. So that's just a little bit about us. But I'm here today to talk about voice-based websites. And so Alexa skills and Google Actions are, as you all probably know, the data says that between those two voice assistants, Alexa and Google Assistant, at least right now, you're really covering all of the voice market. So what we'll cover in today's presentation, and actually I just want to thank all of you for choosing me. I'm really happy that people showed up. Dan actually is a plant. He was going to recruit people to come in, but we actually had people come in, so I appreciate that. But we're going to cover the data. The data is something core to our company, Data Driven Design. We work with small business owners, and when you're a small business owner, you really have to be efficient with your time. You wear every hat, and then you may or may not even have a marketing team. And so that's where we come in and we say, let's let the data help you make decisions, right? So then you don't have to waste time trying to figure out what you want to do. We'll talk about what are voice-based websites. You guys are all pretty familiar with voice because you're at Project Voice, so you probably have a pretty good idea. But I'm going to kind of dig deeper into that and why I believe that they're super important for small business owners. And medium-sized, I categorize mid-level businesses that aren't technically small businesses the way you would think of them. I'll give you an example because it's hard for me to kind of define. One of our clients is Twice Daily in White Bison. And so you're in Tennessee, you may come across a Twice Daily convenience store. So they have close to 100 locations in Middle Tennessee and even in some other states. Well, to me, they fall into that mid-level, small business, mid-size level business category because they really just have a 3-person marketing team that's responsible for a ton of other stuff. We'll talk about why businesses need them and how to build them, that's where I geek out because there's a bunch of different ways to build them. But we think at Data Driven Design that we've kind of come up with a really time-saving way to meet the content manager where they are. So the data, I'm going to walk you guys through this. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of this already, but the punchline here is that this is the way that businesses need to be getting their audience's attention. Any business who's not educated on getting on a voice device, Alexa and Google Assistant, is going to miss some opportunities. Not only from a marketing standpoint, but from an operational standpoint. You guys probably know from being here at Project Voice all the different ways that they can make your operations easier, they can save time, and the term reduce friction gets thrown around a lot. But like from a marketing standpoint, when you're working with small business owners, really what they care about is the bottom line. If I'm going to spend $500 with you, $5,000 with you, $10,000 with you in the course of a year, that's real money. That's something that they want return on investment for. And so being on the voice assistants is going to help capture customers for them ultimately. And then we have things like professionals saying that 54% of professionals surveyed by business.com say they'd use Alexa in the workplace to increase productivity. You have the smart speaker makeup, like I talked about earlier, 62% Amazon Alexa, 24% Google Home as of a year ago. But the number of smart speaker usage just on the rise. So let's talk about what are voice-based websites. So we're talking about conversational content-based apps that just audio enable the written content on a business website. And they meet both types of key users where they are. Because again, we talk about reducing friction a lot. And I think that, yes, voice reduces some friction for the end user, but I think that there's a huge opportunity for the business professional. And that's my main platform is let's take voice into the small business owner and show them how to do it, lower the cost, lower the lift to actually get started. And then that's how voice is going to become mainstream. The pressure kind of coming in from the flashy, sexy side is awesome, like with the different products and stuff. But I think that if we can help the small business owner activate on that, then voice is really going to win in the long run. And the small business owner and mid-size level marketer is really going to have the opportunity to grow their business through voice. So the key user is the user, the visitor, right? Like we can't design a voice app without thinking of the end user. I get that. I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the other user, which I'll get to in a second, but I just want you all to know that I understand that you can't really just take your website and sort of shoehorn it into a voice app. You got to think through the user, right? But the concept here is that you want to take the content that's on your website, start very, very simple, look at Google Analytics, understand what users are interacting with most in the desktop browser and on the mobile device, and then build a voice-based version of that for Alexa and for Google. So it's like a marriage between your website and the voice assistants. So we're kind of like sketching through a conversation, right? So the voice user interface design of this is super simple. It's like taking the main menu on your website, like your About Us page, your Services page, your Contact Us page, and just kind of writing out a conversation. And so something like Alexa, Google, let's talk about Stewart Transportation Solutions. They're another client of ours, and they're more B2B. And so their audience, they want to hit their audience with information on event transportation services. Would you like to learn more about our event transportation services, About Us, or book a consultation? So again, the main navigation of a website. The user says services, and then the voice user interface designer in this case is actually the WordPress content manager, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So you want to get them simply to the punchline. Are you looking for event conference shuttles or executive VIP transportation? Again, this is the B2B business based out of the Nashville area. User says event and conference shuttles, and now it's like a voice-activated website. You're just getting the key information from that page. And again, if you can use data to understand what is the user looking for on your website, then you can write this conversation out. So how do we write the conversation out? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But we know that the user is really not necessarily in the office. They can be in the office, they can be multitasking, talking to the website at this point, doing something else on their computer. But with voice-based websites, they're going to be sticky. The conversation is going to continue into meeting rooms. So business professionals needing to learn about another business to make a decision, a purchasing decision, talking in meeting rooms, in waiting rooms. I mentioned data-driven design as a remote workplace. So technically, my teammates in Nashville, I don't really know what they're doing throughout their day. They have lives. They might need to take their kid to the dentist, for example. They can get work done in the in the waiting rooms. They can get work done while exercising, while driving, of course. Alexa while driving, there's like 47 different ways to put Alexa in your car. And now Google in the car as well, Google Assistant while driving. I actually bought one of the the cigarette lighter devices made by Rove a couple years ago, and they actually work pretty well. So again, why voice-based websites? Well, they're going to save time, reduce friction, and my big one is differentiate your business. So right now, while voice is still being learned by the end consumer and by the business, this is something that if a small business, again, remember the audience here that we're talking about for voice-based websites. We're not talking about enterprise-level corporations that want to build something fancy in this workshop today. We're talking about small business owners that need a low-lift, entry-level way into voice. It's going to differentiate them. Not many of them have Alexa skills right now. You can go into the Alexa app, search for skills in any vertical, and you've usually got less than 50 in any one particular vertical. So the time is now to get in to differentiate your business. It's clear that customers and clients are going to expect that your business has these skills just based on the data that we talked about earlier. Quick little detour here. I run a conference in Nashville called the Nashville Voice Conference. It's on August 7th, 2020, and I'm presenting in the main exhibitor hallway at 12:45 today about that conference. But we had an 11-year-old there last year, and his dad, he convinced his dad to drive in with him from Atlanta for the voice conference last year. And it was because he builds Alexa skills for his class projects. And so when I introduced our keynote speaker, I couldn't help but say, do you all not think this young man is going to expect that all of the businesses because we had businesses in the room that knew nothing about voice apps, right? And so the purpose of our conference was to introduce that, make them feel welcome and learn it. Do you not all think that this young man, this 11-year-old building Alexa skills for class projects is not going to expect your businesses to have an Alexa skill and a Google action when he's doing anything related to maybe wanting to work for you or buy a product or service from you? And I got to activate the clicker because I talked too long without clicking. There we go. So the key user number 2 that I'm really, really pumped about is the content manager, the marketer. These are the people that I've worked with day in and day out, helping them solve their problems in digital marketing since about 2007. So right around when WordPress came out, when Twitter started to be popular, and when Facebook started to be like an actual marketing platform, I was the guy that people would go to answer their questions. And quite frankly, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was learning as well. Google Analytics was another tool people would ask me about. And so building WordPress websites is ingrained in me. All of my friends, all of my coworkers joke with me that I have WordPress tattoos. And so now they're going to be joking with me that I have, obviously, Amazon Alexa and Google Home tattoos. I only have one tattoo. It's my wedding ring. So where's the content manager really? So again, back to the data. According to Wappalizer, which is a browser extension that reads technology platforms on all, I really like that because I can spy on somebody. If I'm on a prospective client call, I can say, oh, it looks like you got a WordPress site, or looks like your site's built in Drupal. But Wappalizer has all the data around content management systems. So 81.1% of the world's websites with content management systems are in WordPress. And so there's a huge opportunity to introduce a way to build voice apps right from the back end of your WordPress website. So Data-Driven Design has built the Voice Designer. You can go to thevoicedesigner.com and turn your WordPress website into an Alexa skill and a Google action. Now, I know from walking around Project Voice, you guys have seen a lot of different ways to build these apps. But again, this is about a small business owner, a marketer, maybe responsible for buying all their media. Maybe they're buying outdoor media. They're buying Google ads. They're trying to figure out Google Analytics. They're trying to figure out how to even set up Facebook Business Manager. Now they got to worry about an Alexa skill, a Google action. These are real challenges for really talented people out there. So again, to give them a way to have an entry-level Alexa skill and Google action to promote their business, meeting them where they are in the back end of their WordPress website. So do any of you in the room have a WordPress website or have logged into a WordPress dashboard before? Okay, pretty good show of hands. It's about half the room. So you guys that have done that, you know what a WordPress plugin is. You can go to plugins over on the left-hand side. You can search the plugin directory for the Voice Designer, click Install, click Activate, and then you get the Voice Designer layout right here. It's a canvas. It looks a lot like VoiceFlow. It looks a lot like some of the others that are here at Project Voice, but it's definitely not as feature-rich. Basically what it allows you to do is build that conversation that I demoed earlier for you. And you can add a basic response, type in the words that you want Alexa or Google to say, or you can choose a page on your website. So right there, you're seeing where you can select from one of the you can select from one of the blocks on the side, use a page from this website, and it'll take you to the page on the website, and you can put the content in, kind of audit what you want to put in from that page. And the best part is that once you've spent really like 5 or 10 minutes actually building it, of course, after you thought about the user, looked at the data, and understood what you want this experience to look like, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to build it, and then you can test it right from the back end of your WordPress website. After you click Save All Changes, you'll get a notification that says what to do I'm about to say, so hopefully this will work. Alexa, ask Voice Designer to run Stewart Transportation.
Stewart Transportation works with companies in need of event transportation. We're excited you want to learn more about.
So this is what I typed into the back end of one of those blocks.
Would you like to learn more about event transportation services, about us, or book a consultation?
About us.
We're in this together. You need a partner.
You can write it kind of in your brand voice. The next feature on our list.
Someone who understands what service really means. At STS.
The next feature on our list is to replace the robot voice with the ability to record from the back end of the WordPress website or upload an MP3 file that would be hosted in the WordPress media gallery. Keeping everything in WordPress and building all of our features right where, again, that marketer slash admin of a dental practice, for example. In this case, Stewart Transportation Solutions is a 25-person company. Classify them however you want. They've got pretty good revenue. They've been around for about 20 years. They do B2B, and their marketing director does everything. So she's in here updating content. Maybe they hire a new employee. They need to add them to the back end of the WordPress website. She can go right into the Voice Designer plugin, change around content, click Save All Changes, and it'll deploy her skill to the Alexa Skills Store and the Google Actions directory. Now, the free version of the Voice Designer allows you to do what I just showed you and what I just demoed you. And like as most of you know, WordPress, there typically is a small entry-level cost. So what we've done in our beta version here of the Voice Designer, and we're going to roll it out with all of our current web hosting clients. We have about 100 web hosting clients at Data Driven Design. We're going to give it to them for free, help them build their voice apps within the Voice Designer to kind of champion getting more Alexa skills and getting more Google Actions out there for small businesses. And then at some point, we'll charge people that we don't really know just a small entry-level fee of about $200, a one-time $200 cost for a single site license to have an Alexa skill and a Google action that you can build yourself. So pretty low lift for anybody, $200 one-time investment. And then if you're a developer, or not a developer, but if you're someone who's interested in building these apps on more than one WordPress site, we have a developer license for one-time $500. So we're not trying to be a SaaS company. We're not trying to be a product company. We're trying to introduce voice to the people that we already serve through our services, our web design and digital marketing services. So now I truly believe that we're saving time. We're saving time for the small business owners by building tools like this. And then at the same time, we're saving time for the end user because as we all know in this room, voice does that. Reducing friction and differentiating your business. I've got 11 minutes till Peggy would come in and tell me to stop, which is good because I really like to take Q&A. I hope that there's some Q&A here. You can feel free to grill me if you want. And before I take Q&A, I just need to self-promote because I'm a marketer and I like to provide value but then also self-promote. So for more free digital marketing tips, all of this stuff, voice, like I mentioned, Facebook Business Manager, probably how to do random stuff in Shopify and WordPress. I put out a daily vlog, blog, everything. It's on Instagram and YouTube, or dataoveropinions.com is the blog site. And then I really would love any of you that are interested in talking to me about being involved in the Nashville Voice Conference. It's August 7th, 2020, and It's at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. So again, and I guess like the next step is if you're free at 12:45 today, come hear me talk more about that. And I've got business cards and flyers on the Nashville Voice Conference here for anybody who's interested. I'll probably just pass them out. But go ahead, Julie. I'm ready for the Q&A now.
So, I'm going to ask you questions from an educator's perspective.
Absolutely.
But, so my first thought was, I'm teaching kids how to make Google sites.
Uh-huh.
What's the chances of that plugin working with a Google site in the future?
Very high, because I'm glad you asked that question, because actually the way that we built the Voice Designer is all of the code base is really off of WordPress. We happen to have built it in a way where the next thing would be to, okay, like that's a great example, the Google sites. So we actually have the ability to, it would take a little bit of work, but we actually have the ability to like build a version that would plug into Google sites. And like I said, the bulk of the code base is not specific to WordPress. There just happens to be the WordPress plugin that we pull in, and that's the way we're launching it again because of the data. But if there's...
See that being a very easy way for students to start learning how to use voice because they're already familiar. If you're a Google school, you've learned how to use Google Sites.
I love it because, and that's why I want to get out and talk to everybody because, yeah, like the data might say, okay, the small business owner market is on WordPress, but other people are building websites everywhere, right? So glad you brought that up. Thanks for asking.
So before, just a personal question, before
Sure.
you got involved with the project Voice, with the website, with the Voice, did you build websites without? I mean,
Yeah.
is that something you did?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that. Yeah. So I kind of skipped over that. I've been building WordPress websites since 2007. I still am to this day. So, like, probably building like, I was gonna say maybe 2 or 3 a week. Maybe not that many anymore, but pretty close. So yeah.
Dealing with a lot of data?
So from a web data standpoint, we look at Google Analytics. We look at like, there's a bunch of different third-party tools to get heat mapping data or do A/B testing. So we've typically landed on like Crazy Egg and Google Optimize. But we've used VWO and we've used Optimizely. And so that's kind of like our digital toolkit of mainly looking at web data. Now we also look at data from social media. So Facebook Business Manager has a ton of data. So helping our clients make business decisions based on that. Those are, I would say, the main data sources that we're looking at all the time. Heavily Google Analytics. So totally, that's why I'm here. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
How are you handling any additional markup or metadata in pages that your clients are creating or that you're creating for them?
So could you elaborate on that for me? Give me like an example. So you say, how am I handling it? So I kind of think of like, I just want to understand what the problem is, like what the challenge is that I would need to try to solve in that.
Increasingly we're seeing clients that are putting Facebook graph markup or Google's graph markup
Okay.
into the pages themselves to provide either additional metadata or in the hopes that Google is going to pick it up and categorize it some way.
Okay.
But this is also data that that we think at least that Google is using as part of its voice efforts.
Sure.
When going through the data, and I'm wondering if this is data that you can be using as well to enhance the conversation that's getting built, or shortcuts to the conversation that's getting built, since they're already putting it into the page.
Right.
How much of that can you deduce what the conversation is about, or keywords, or those sorts of things?
Yeah. So breaking this down, I'll start with like just the basic website management level. So at Data Driven Design, we do empower our partners to update their own, say, schema and metadata and everything. And so we hand the websites over to our clients. And so at that point, they can do whatever they want. Most of the time, they rely on the way that we set it up for them because we go through a process of setting all that up. We are familiar with Google Actions that can be built from the schema on the website. So I think that's what you're referring to is that. Yeah. So I I saw an article about that a few weeks ago, and I have it on my list in Basecamp to do a data-driven daily tip on that for my blog. And so before I do a data-driven daily tip, I have to like really try to make it happen, and then like see if it happens and learn about it, and then like teach people about it through the tip. So I'm glad you brought it up, because you're just kind of reminding me that there's interest out there in that answer to that question. So I don't know the answer right now in terms of like how website markup would result in a Google action, and then how that would benefit, like who that would benefit, right? But I think it's a fascinating discussion. So I'm definitely gonna do that tip and send it out, and look for it on, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Hickey, like you'll see that on there probably in the next couple months. So, and I'd be happy to talk, if there's more that you know about it that you want to share, I'd be happy to talk to you about it too.
WordPress. I mean, I know your target platform or destination platform is either Alexa or Google Assistant. Have you looked though at a lot of people do voice searches, on a kind of mobile device beyond an actual website.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, your kind of voice experience is dead. Have you looked at kind of using this type of approach, or have customers asked about how they could allow voice interaction with the actual website?
Yeah.
In a seamless way?
Yeah, I have. And there's actually somebody here that approached our booth who has a company that he's saying will voice activate like any website in the way that you're talking about. And so I'm fascinated by that, and I want to learn more from him. I don't remember his name right now. But there's also on the mobile device, so a business partner of mine, after our Nashville Voice Conference last year, like within a couple weeks after, he was texting me about, like, he uses the Google app a lot. And my understanding is that depending on what device you're on, within that app, you can just talk to a website through the browser, through like the mobile app browsing capabilities within the Google app. So I know that it's something to pay attention to, but for me, it's not as high on my priority list, just because like the world that I work in is like so focused around being practical and tactical, like small business owners focusing on their business. And so like they don't really care how to solve the problem, but they just want to get value out of a particular solution. And so for them, they're finally kind of warming up to the idea of people using Alexa and people using Google Assistant. And so to kind of introduce like now talking to the browser, I think is like, I'm just not sure how valuable that is for me, based on kind of having like my finger on the pulse of the small business owner community. But I mean, I think you're on the right track in terms of like, okay, well, if I'm talking about voice-based websites, like technically that's an area to pay attention to. So we got time for a couple more questions. Anybody else? Moses?
This is a comment. This is a feature that comes to mind. Like, if you got like a marketplace. So, for example, I imagine that business owners, they don't necessarily have the time to make these templates. So, if you had like a marketplace, where, like, I could get a template for whatever, that would be really, convenient. So,
Okay.
I don't know if you already thought about that. But
That's a great idea.
that's
So,
one of the things that come to mind to me. Is
yeah.
like, I don't want to put the effort into like going from scratch. To
Uh-huh.
thing, you know what I mean? If I go
Yeah.
there, download a template, and just fill in my information.
So having it, so you're talking about like when they go within their WordPress dashboard and click the voice designer to start building it, like have a template there that's sort of preloaded with the content, and then have them be, yeah, I love that.
And then the other side is having a marketplace. So like,
Okay.
if I go to a marketplace, then I can upload my template to the marketplace, and then I can just, it'd be kind of a collaboration kind of thing.
So do you know WordPress pretty well or no? A little bit?
I'm not a WordPress developer, but I mean,
Yeah.
I know WordPress well enough that I can, do that.
So to me, that would be kind of like a plugin extension, maybe. So you've got like Envato Market, for example, and so like we could put the voice designer in Envato Market, and then like we can build extensions to the voice designer, and those could be the templates. Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
Anyways, just a thought.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. It's 11 o'clock, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time because there's like 45 million other sessions. Thanks for coming. I'm going to pass out the Nashville Voice Conference and my business card.